Welcome to the 60 Plus Podcast.
I'm Janet.
And I'm Joe. How are you, Janet?
I'm good.
Are you?
Yeah,
You're
I'm
good.
good.
You're good.
Yeah, I'm a little sleepy, I have to say.
Do you want to tell us why?
Well, I just came back from a little trip.
Oh,
Yeah,
how was it?
it was great. I loved it. It
Yeah.
was so nice. Yeah. And I
So is
took
that
a
what,
really long bike ride.
how long is long?
3 hours.
Well, no. In miles.
Oh, I don't know how it doesn't count because there were a lot of hills because it
Uh,
was through the dunes
okay.
along the beach and around, and I think it was well over 7 miles, but that's deceiving. It seems like it should be longer, but it was really beautiful.
I'm sure.
Yeah, and I did that part of my journey by myself.
Is that what prompted the idea for this episode of the 60 Plus Podcast?
I guess so, yeah. Yeah, this idea of solo travel.
So we've done travel before.
We talked to Nadine.
We did. But this episode is specifically about solo travel.
Right, which means, going it on your own, which apparently is a big growing trend.
Well, since you went on your solo trip, everyone wants to do it.
Right, that's it. I'm a I'm a
You're a
trendsetter.
trendsetter.
Actually, no, this trend's been happening since the pandemic. More and more people are, including especially this year, I guess, 54% are looking to go it alone.
Really?
Yeah, that's really high, right?
It seems high.
And it's across all age groups, but in particular, in our age group, 50% of solo travelers are in our age group.
That kind of makes sense to me.
Yeah, because you're retired, you have more time. And, there's a high percentage of women, of course, who are doing this, like Nadine.
Oh, Nadine
A lot of,
or Janet.
yep, yep. And a lot of women, even our married women, are kind of leaving their spouses at home and going for it.
Their spouses are very grateful, I hear.
Yeah, perhaps it works for both of them. I don't know. I assume it does. But, if you think about the drivers for this, they did a little research study and they found that many people just didn't want to have to wait for somebody to decide, oh, they want to come along and to have the freedom to just go and do what they want when they want.
I know couples that one person is retired and the other is not.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that they both appreciate when the retired person goes off on a trip.
Right, because you don't feel guilty about keeping them at home when they
Mhm.
want to go and explore, and they can focus on whatever they need to focus on at home.
And let's
So
face
it
it,
works
not
out.
even married couples, their interests don't always,
Align. Right.
one partner may be a big golfer and the other person wants to go to the beach all the time.
Right. But you can also go on a trip together and decide how you want to spend time. I know when I go on a trip with someone, you might decide to do a certain part of it on your own
I was
because
trying to get into the solo travel kind of idea.
well, I thought you brought up married couples, so I'm just kind of trying to go along with you. All right, so back to solo travel. It is the fastest growing global travel segment. Not only is it a demographic trend, but if you think about the industry itself starting to learn that they need to cater to this group of people because it's going to grow. Compound annual growth rate is 9.1% between 2023 and 2030. So
Not insignificant.
not insignificant. And as I said, the fastest growing segment. So there are organizations who are starting to get smart about this. And, I think in the past you were almost at a disadvantage if you wanted to travel alone. Like I know, like even on like cruise ships, right? If you get a double, it's like, I don't know, $4,000 for a week or whatever. And if you get a single, it's like $3,000. So, so it's not conducive to single travel. And I think that's changing.
It is. I came across a couple of articles actually, that talk about what they call supplements.
Mm-hmm.
So, staying in a hotel, they kind of count on double occupancy.
Right.
So, two people eating in the restaurant and whatnot.
Right.
Solo travelers will sometimes face a supplement, and it can be as high as 100%.
Yeah.
So, you're booking one person, but you're actually paying for two. So, it's something to be careful of.
Yeah.
A lot of supplements are down around 20%, which it's kind of fair from a business perspective. You're not bringing the same revenue to a hotel, for instance, that a couple would.
Right. Yeah, and that's understandable. But if you're set up for solo travelers, then you would have already built that into your business model.
True, true.
So,
And there's a lot of resources. There's a website actually called solotravelerworld.com.
mhm,
All kinds of information about traveling solo.
mhm.
Uh,
And there are organizations too that are catering because a large group of people, and in fact, a growing group of people, even though they're planning these solo travel trips, want to do so in a group. So, in other words, I'm not just going to plan a trip and go it completely alone. I'm going to
Ride my bike
arrange.
through the dunes with a group of people.
No, I'm going to arrange to go on a tour, or I'm going to arrange to go with a tour group.
Could you get a bicycle built for two and do that?
I did have a bicycle built for two. There
When?
just was nobody on it.
Wow,
I'm
that's a
kidding.
lot.
No, I'm not. I did not. I'm just kidding.
That might be a good way to meet somebody, right?
Be
You just
like,
drive
hey, you
along.
need a ride? Hey there. Hey there, big boy. Hey, you know what, Joe? Maybe I'll try that next time.
Okay. If you'd like to take a bike ride with Janet, leave a comment in the Spotify comment section.
Yes, please do. Now you've lost. See, you got me all flustered. I lost my train of thought
If you'd
here.
like to do anything else with Janet, leave a comment.
Oh, boy. This is our new dating app here. The
50th
60
episode.
plus dating
50
app.
episodes to get to ask Janet out.
If you like what you're hearing. Okay, so all right. Now you've completely thrown me off.
Well, there are things to consider if you're traveling solo.
Mm-hmm.
There are ways to save money.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing that came to my mind,
What?
it's kind of cheaper in a way because you're only paying for one person, even with a supplement. If you're married or in a relationship and only one of you is working, you're still paying for two people.
Right.
It's cheaper to go out to eat by yourself.
Another approach to dating.
Another approach
By
to
Joe.
one of the benefits. So, but there are all kinds of ways to save money when you're traveling solo.
Yes.
And something I saw a couple of different places. It might have been Travel and Leisure, and I think
Mhm.
it was also on solotravelerworld.com. Check out hostels. They say hostels are not just for young people anymore.
Right. And they're also not what you
They're
perceive
not
them to
what they
be.
were 25, 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Many of them are purpose-built.
Yep.
There's privacy. There's better security. It's not kind of a flop house
Right.
that you might have
Right.
in
It's
the back
not,
of your
it's
mind.
not a yurt in the middle of a field.
Although that sounds like fun.
That's actually trending too, but I
Yeah.
don't know for our demographic or not.
I would
But
stay in a
adventure
yurt.
is still
Would you
one
not
of
stay in a yurt? Ride your bicycle built for
course.
two up to a yurt?
Stop. Yes, I would stay in a yurt, but I don't know if I would stay in a yurt by myself.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh, I
because
would.
there's no like lock on the door. You do, I mean, as a female traveler, you do have to take some things into consideration. There are some safety
Sure.
concerns that maybe a man wouldn't face necessarily. So, you have to be safe and do your research about where you're going and what potential security issues might be. And of course, always be aware of your surroundings. I mean, we know that is the most important thing.
Of course.
So, solo travel's great, but you do want to make sure that if you're not going with a group, that you are taking care of yourself and, maybe connecting with others might be a good way to ensure your safety.
Well, that was one of the things that I saw in all of the research I did was one of the great benefits of traveling solo is meeting other people.
Exactly. Like I know when I'm out and about by myself, I have conversations I would never have if I was with someone, right? You just
Sometimes you have conversations when you're by yourself. I've
You know
heard
what,
them.
Joe? You know what? You
I'm
have
really
been,
taking advantage of your
you,
of your tiredness today.
you really are, because I am not on my game, because I would be hurling it back at you. Of course, you would edit that part out.
As I've said before, you can always take over the tech
Yeah, the
side.
power of the edit. Let me tell you guys.
The power of the pen.
The power of the edit
yeah.
of the board. Yeah. I'm sure that you talk to yourself too. As a matter of fact, I've heard you. Oh, wait, you were actually talking to me at the time. I just wasn't listening.
One of the things that I think a lot of people say about traveling solo when you're 60 plus is, I'm too old to do that.
Oh, well, that's the big myth.
I agree. The bottom line is, if you're too old to do it now, are you going to be
Even older later.
you're going to be older later? Now
It's
is the
not
time to do it.
not necessarily going to get better.
No, it's not going to get better. It could be the same,
Yeah, yeah.
but I think any trepidation that you have is only going to become worse if you don't do it sooner.
Yeah, the sooner the better, I
I
suppose.
agree. If not now,
But
when?
then again, because the boomer population is such a big traveling population, especially American boomers, there are organizations that cater to those needs as well. If you're not as mobile as you used to be, that shouldn't put you off from traveling. Just you
No,
have
there's
to.
all kinds of things you can do. You don't have to ride a bicycle. You can,
You can
you
have somebody pedal for
you
you.
could if you just get one of
That's
those
why I
trailer
got the
bikes.
bicycle
Get-
built for two.
oh, would you be
So
on
I
the
could sit in the back and not do
pedal?
it. No, I'm not like that. You know me.
So some tips for traveling solo.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be afraid of the technology. Now, we've talked a lot about 60 plus people and technology. Don't be afraid of the technology. You have telephone. I remember the first,
You have the rotary dial cell
the
phone.
rotary dial cell phone that we talked about last time. But no, I remember the first time I went to Europe, we didn't have cell phones.
Right.
You were cut off.
Well, there's so many great apps for traveling, like the Google Translate, for instance.
My daughter
That's
and I,
amazing.
4 or 5 years ago, my younger daughter and I were in Iceland, and most everything was in English, but there were a
Mm-hmm.
few things that weren't. And I was able to hold my phone up to a sign,
Mm-hmm.
and it translated it on the screen into
Mm-hmm.
English.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like magic.
It is magic. And there are other apps like when you're traveling with friends, there's this thing called Splitwise,
Love Splitwise.
which is great because you can just keep a tally of what people are spending, and at the end of it,
It settles it all up.
It'll calculate for you.
I was on a trip with 6 other guys, and everyone would pay for different things.
Right.
And at the you put it in, what you spent, and at the end it's in a group, and at the end it says, okay, Mark owes you $10, and David owes you $300, and you owe Ed $50.
Right.
And if you do Venmo,
Exactly.
it just does it for you.
Yeah.
Communicating. You may not have an international calling plan on your phone, but if you have internet, there's a lot of open internet, you can use WhatsApp.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yep.
WhatsApp works great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we kind of touched upon these things when we were talking to Nadine, but we have to also think about what are the sort of enablers for people who want to start solo traveling. And I think that we came across a bunch of organizations that actually cater to the solo traveler.
There were so many, it's almost impossible for me to list.
Right.
Just Google group solo travel.
Yeah. And there's a
And
ton of them. Like
there
I know
a
one in
ton.
particular for educators. It's called Holbrook, and they go on some amazing trips. And that's catering to solo travels. I actually just got a meetup group invitation for solo travelers.
Did you?
Yeah.
I know you do Meetup.
Yeah.
I've never joined a Meetup. I don't
Oh,
really.
they're great because there's people who, have like-minded interests. So, if you're just dipping your toe in the water and you want to get out there on your own to do things, this is a great way to start, locally. There's hiking groups and music groups and almost everything. Travel
Bicycle?
groups,
Bicycle?
sailing, yes,
I thought you were
bicycling.
going to not answer me about bicycles. I think I've worn that one out.
There's a special group for people who want to use a bicycle built for two on their own.
And a subgroup beyond that of people who will just ride solo on a bicycle built for two. I think we could call them tandem bikes too. When we say bicycle built for two, all I think of is that song I learned in 3rd grade.
How does that go, Joe?
I'm not going to sing it.
On a bicycle built for two. Something like that?
Something like that, yes.
That was not very good.
That was not good.
No, thank
Uh,
you. Thanks.
I didn't force you to sing.
I have to sing at least once on
At
every.
least once. You bring up a good point.
I know.
That might be the funniest thing you've ever said on the 60 Plus podcast. If you're feeling a little anxious about solo travel, you don't have to like go to Budapest or
No.
Thailand or
Galapagos.
you can just take a road trip.
Yeah.
Go on an overnight on a road trip and just try it out.
Yeah.
It
Or
just
it doesn't even have to be overnight. Just go on and
Just
do a
go
day
down the
thing.
road,
Yeah.
someplace you
Go
haven't
down
been
the
before.
road. Get out of here.
But you can go closer.
Yeah.
But if you're nervous about international travel, well, we live in a great big country.
Oh my gosh. And there's actually, I was reading as part of my research that more and more is inside the country. And I think that's because of the hassles that you face when you're getting in international situations. They're hard enough, with somebody to go through
What kind
that.
of hassles are you talking about, Janet? These seem like minor inconveniences to me.
Oh, when was the last time you got on a plane and went on to an international route?
4 or 5 years ago.
Okay. Well, that is not recent.
Oh, no, it's not.
I don't want to complain, but wasn't all rainbows and unicorns on the last trip that I took just back in March.
Was
So
it some rainbows and unicorns?
once I got there, it was awesome.
So what were the hassles?
Delays being on the
Oh.
you're facing it like a 6-hour flight and you're like delayed on the tarmac for 2 hours.
What is
I
it
mean,
with airlines
that's
lately?
horrible.
Yeah.
It's just so
No, I know what you're saying.
getting in a car to me, road tripping, love it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also a very comfortable thing to do on your own, right? Because in the first phase of it, you're in your own car.
That's true.
I remember during the pandemic, that was the one place I knew I could like take off my mask and just like chillax. And you go to some open area, a beach or, a mountain, whatever, and you don't have to worry about anybody else.
Recently, in the past 5 or 6 weeks, taken a couple of trips. They were overnight trips, within 2 or 3 hours of home, and it was beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was really lovely places I hadn't been in years or ever
Right.
been before.
Yeah.
There's so much to do.
Well, this past weekend, I told you I went on a high-speed ferry. It was 90 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Got there. It was just like a whole new world. It was
Yep.
beautiful, beautiful. Loved it. I'm like, I'm going to do this again. This was a no-brainer. It's definitely, it doesn't have to be a big undertaking, especially if you're just getting started.
And then you can kind of expand beyond that. Now,
Mhm.
some people like road trips. Other people like rail travel.
Rail travel's a great way to go
Rail travel
too.
can be great.
Yeah. I've always wanted to do a cross-country Canadian rail trip. I hear it's just amazing.
And there's like a northern route and a southern route that you can
Yeah.
take. I've heard the same. And then if you don't mind, dealing with the airport hassles, you can still have some great trips within a few hours of home and hop on a plane and be in, we're in the Northeast. You can be in Western Canada. You can be in the West Coast of the United States. You can be in the Southwest, in the desert.
Mm-hmm.
So much to see.
Mm-hmm.
But there are lots of other ways to travel too. I've read
You mean with people?
with solo. A number of articles I read where people have been traveling, they retire,
Mm-hmm.
they sell their house or they pack up their apartment and they go traveling for 2 years.
Yeah, I like that. That sounds
I don't
fun.
know. I don't know.
Well,
I'd like a home base.
yes, I think you need to have a home base, but I could totally see myself traveling for like 6 months, going around the world or whatever.
Now, here's one thing that you should be aware of. That's the word I'm looking for. Health insurance. If you're
Mm,
traveling internationally, you've got to check out what your health insurance
yes,
will cover.
that's true.
When we interviewed,
Art
yes,
from Shine.
Yep.
Yeah.
He did talk about this.
Yes, he did.
Traveling internationally, you've got to be careful about your health insurance. So look into that.
Yeah.
And even if you're traveling in the United States, but out of state, and you're going to be out of state for a considerable period of time, you should check on your health insurance.
Yeah, and sometimes they have extra insurance policies that
Mhm.
you can get for your travel. So and that's probably especially a good idea when you are solo.
But the idea of full-time travel, a lot of people do it. And
Mhm.
you can't do it when you're in your 20s or 30s or 40s when you're working and you've got a career and you've got kids. And,
Yeah, or you might be in between, like a lot of people do it between college and getting their first job.
Right.
They'll be like, okay, I'm going to take a
Oh,
break.
yep.
I think another, of course, natural is right after you retire.
Sure. This is kind of travel. Home swapping, home exchange.
Mm,
I've read a couple of articles about a site called
yes.
homeexchange.com.
In fact, I know a few people around here who've done it, and it works out really well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like Airbnb in a way. You put your house up on,
Mm-hmm.
say, for instance, homeexchange.com, not sponsored by Home Exchange. You can exchange your home or earn points. So, say somebody wants to stay at your house, but you don't want to stay at theirs. You can earn points to use at somebody else's house.
Or even doing it with people that you know is an
Sure.
idea too. There's also house sitting,
Hmm.
where you sort of embed yourself in the local culture of that place because you're going to be in that home for a month or whatever, which is also a neat idea.
It is a neat idea. That's a very low cost way because it could be zero cost
Yeah.
to going and really embedding in another culture or another location for an extended period of time.
Right. And you bring up a good point. You wonder whether like places, Verbo and Airbnb, they may have already started doing it, but if they started to cater to this group of people, the solo traveler, they would layer on some, not insurance policies necessarily, but some security measures, maybe solo travel friendly type of thing. One of the things that I was reading was that many of these solo travels across the age groups are looking for adventure. If you're looking for locations, I would think that venture is critical, safety and security is critical, having some kind of support around that place so you're not out in the middle of nowhere on your own type of thing. So all of these variables, if you will, that make that solo travel a bit more pleasant could be built into these offerings. And I think that's kind of where the travel industry needs to go.
I really like Airbnb and VRBO, Verbo. I've used them many times, but there are places that are limiting people's ability to do what they call short-term rentals.
Mm-hmm.
I think Home Exchange, that kind of model, would get around that.
Yeah.
And you don't have to declare any income as a result of it.
Hmm.
If you rent out your house through Airbnb, there's income there. That becomes taxable.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Home Exchange,
It's just a barter
it's
system.
a barter system, so I don't think that there's any kind of tax implication there.
Oh, that's interesting.
We're not
Never
tax
thought of that.
experts, but consult your own tax
Yes,
advisor,
please. Don't listen to us, especially about anything
especially
financial.
Joe.
Especially Joe.
All
Although
right.
he does like spreadsheets.
I do like spreadsheets. I do.
Not math, but spreadsheets.
No, we'll talk about math after. I was told there'd be no math involved. Well, this isn't a myth buster.
No, it's not. It's like the myth would be, oh, you're over 60, you can't be.
You got to stay home
Out
on your
there.
front porch with a
Yeah, you
with a
can't go on a
half stand on
solo
your lap
travel
and
trip. You're old. Why, old dogs can't learn new tricks.
So we busted that myth, even though this is not
It
a
wasn't
myth
a
buster.
No, this is just a hot
Hot
topic.
topic about traveling solo,
Yep.
and if not now, when? Right?
I say that of everything about this age, right? If not now, when?
Correct.
TikTok, everything's like speeding up. So
Well, some things are slowing down.
my body parts. Yeah. So anyway, get out there, have fun, whether it's an afternoon or a week-long trip to someplace fantastic.
Or you exchange your home for a year and you go and
Oh
live.
wow, yeah, that's
wouldn't
pretty
that be something?
bold. That would be bold, yeah.
Well,
I don't know if I could be away from my home for a whole year though. I have
but
to
you just
think
talked
about
about
that.
extended
I
travel.
know, but now I'm thinking about it. I really like it here.
Well, you live in a nice place, Janet.
Well, thank you.
Well, I mean, you didn't create it.
I built it myself. Me and my bicycle.
All right,
built
that's
it.
enough for this week. This has been the 60 Plus Podcast.
I'm Janet.
I'm Joe.
Bye.